A great debt in the doll world is owed, once again, to those people who determined to make their collection available to the public, to open their doors for the public to come in and view and enjoy and just bask in the pleasure of their beautiful antique dolls. Of particular notice right now is the wonderful Musée de la Poupée museum in Paris, which has been in existence for 20 years and which was the first ever all-doll museum in Paris. So an amazing thing to realize when you know how dolls were the complete industry of Paris in the late 1860s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. The museum was founded by Sammy and Guido Oden, father and son, who had originally had a small museum in their home in Italy and then moved it to Paris in this wonderful setting in this little nook almost that you had to go behind the buildings on cobblestone steps and streets, and you would then walk into the museum where it was just a wonderland of wonderful dolls. Sammy is a man of immense curiosity and intellect and pursued the study and the interest of all of his dolls that he had, not content just simply to display them, but to have the background of them. And had mounted many famous exhibitions, wrote several books, and at this point is parting with his dolls that have been in that collection. We have in his book, which we've entitled Fascination, over 400 items from that museum, and there are some incredible treasures. And I'm going to show you just a really bare snippet of what those treasures would be today. We hope you'll be able to attend this auction and see all of these wonderful pieces. It's almost like Theriault and Sammy Oden have gotten together and brought a museum to California for one day only, that you'll be able to we brought the museum to you, and you should try to get there and see these wonderful dolls. Now, let me just show you that I've kind of divided this presentation into two parts, what I call French dolls from the golden years with a couple of Germans thrown in, and French dolls from the Renaissance years of post-1899. And so let's look first of all at some of the beautiful dolls, and I'm just going to talk to you about them and just turn them around and let you see a little bit of detail of each of them. And what I want to begin with is our cover doll, an absolutely stunning portrait Jumeau, known as the doll with the wraparound eyes, and that in reference to her large, beautiful eyes that wrap around the sides of her head and give an extraordinary impression to her. Her bisque is so notable for its delicacy and pale coloring, and when I turn her around, I want you to be able to see the profile of the face, the beautiful lines of the sculpture. We really often have not paid enough attention to the fine sculpture work that was done on many of these early dolls. Remember how important this was, because dolls were considered, they were just kids' playthings, and a lot of people didn't take them seriously. We needed to have the doll makers like Émile Jumeau, Pierre-François Jumeau, then Émile Jumeau, then Leon Casimir Bru, come along and really pay attention to the artistry of the doll, and that is exactly what happened. It's why we have these beautiful treasures today. She's wearing her original cotton costume, which is very simple, but look at the fabric. Very, very beautiful design of children playing, like a toile pattern. Very, very lovely. Beautiful satin cap, and that wonderful early fat body with those big limbs and the 8-ball jointed body, the beginning of the articulation movement of the bébé. Another early one, certainly different in size, is this doll which is known as the cartouche Jumeau, and I'm going to show you why it's called that in a moment. Very, very different marking on this doll, only appeared for perhaps 1 or 2 years in the very early days of the Jumeau production, and very special. This girl has her original lamb's wool wig and in her hair the original comb that came with a doll from the Jumeau factory when she was first sold. So very important. She's wearing her original costume. I'm going to show you that all the way around. And I want you to see something. I hope the camera can pick this up, because this is what we mean about the cartouche mark. If you can see the lettering at the bottom of her neck, big in size lettering, Jumeau, inside a cartouche banner. Very mark of Jumeau having pride in his work and wanting to show it off. And I would like to also show you her beautiful original Jumeau shoes, the aqua kid shoes. Just a wonderful doll all the way around. Sammy Oden had several brews in his collection, and this is one of them, and I think it's wonderful. In his book he wrote called Fascinating Dolls, from which we borrowed our title, Fascination, for the auction catalog, he wrote about this particular brew. It came to them from the original family, and it had been costumed in 1879, which of course is correct with the date of the doll, to represent the wedding gown of one of the daughters in this prominent family. This was her doll, given to her on her wedding day, and wearing a replica of the gown that she wore for her wedding. It was the custom at the time to give a doll to the young bride as her final doll, I guess entering adulthood, and in this case, wearing the totally original gown. She's a very beautiful doll, gorgeous brown eyes on her. Now, before we were looking at waltzing dolls, and Steiner also did a waltzing doll, and they did them with several different faces, and as you can see, if you lift the skirt, the form underneath where the mechanism is. I picked this one out in particular to show you, though, because I think this costume is so absolutely extraordinary. Perfectly preserved. She has her original box. She has an additional costume like a paisley day robe that comes with her, but this doll is just as fresh and precious as the day it was made. And I want you to look at her costume carefully, and now watch when I turn her around and look at the back of this costume. This is just incredible. Look at the streamers coming down the back of the hat. I love this doll. You know, sometimes people say, well, I don't want a mechanical doll, and my comment to them is, you know what? If you don't want this as a mechanical doll, just put it in your arrangement of French fashions, and nobody will know she's mechanical. She is the same size, and her costume is just something you don't find very often. And now we have one of the creme de la creme of the doll world. And if I can get you to see the mark carefully, I want to do it. High at the back of the head is the letter H, and the H mark standing for Aristide Halipeau, who was the maker of this doll. Mr. Halipeau made dolls for only a short time, and they are so rare and precious to find, and always of this finest quality. It's really interesting that in his collection, Sammy managed to gather the creme de la creme of the French dolls, the earliest portrait Jumeau, the earliest Brew, an H doll, and I'll be showing you an AT doll in a moment. Very, very extraordinary. And once again, let me show you the costume on this doll all the way around. When I turn them around to look, I'm looking at them while you're looking at the back of the costume, and I see different things I haven't mentioned. In this case, I'm noticing the real depth of the paperweight eyes. And I'm hoping maybe if the camera has like a side view of it, they can pick up how deep those paperweight eyes are. They're just gorgeous. Now, we have another very extraordinary doll here. And when you look at this doll, if you are like I am, you think at first, is it a Gaultier? And then you say, or is it a Raybury and Delfure? Well, that is indeed what it is, the Raybury and Delfure. It has the block letter markings, RD, on the back of the head. And I think she's quite stunning with her original aqua silk costume and very, very beautiful bonnet. I'm going to turn her again. I find myself, as I catalog over the years, finding different things that I mention about dolls, and lately I've been noticing the uniformity of the extra step of impressing dimples in the bisque of some of these dolls. For example, a really well-defined philtrum above the mouth, the dimple on the chin, and then on the corner of the cheeks. These are all features that, stop and think about it, not only give extra beauty to the doll, but they were an extra luxury step that had to be taken, making these an important doll, as opposed to something that would have been rolling them off the mold 100 a minute. These were so uniformly done with distinct individual characteristics. And then we have, of course, the beloved A.T., André Tullier, who did this stunning dolls that every collector dreams to have one. And if you dream of having one, would you want to have this one in this unbelievable costume? And look at that. Beautiful face, everything about it in every way is so characteristic of the A.T. Very, very deep paperweight eyes. And as we turn it around, you're able to see all of the details of this wonderful original costume. There are dozens of gorgeous early French dolls in Sammy Oden's collection. I have one more here that I wanted to show you while we were talking about Bruce. You do not find this very often. This is an example of, again, the dolls being created to meet the market of the people coming to the international expositions in Paris. This girl costume to appeal to the Asian travelers that were coming. She's wearing her beautiful original fashion costume from Bru of the silk kimono with all of the embroidery labels on it. She has her original signed Bru shoes. And when I turn it around, look at the bottom. I think you can see it there more clearly. Look at the embroidered birds. Aren't they beautiful? Embroidered birds, embroidered flowers. And I'm going to turn it around again and look at the original jewelry that she is wearing. Look at the earrings and the hair ornament that are matching fan-shaped ornaments. Absolutely beautiful. And then her wonderful little different type of a fan brooch that she is wearing as a tie. This is a very superb doll, and to find the silk as sturdy as this, there's nothing fragile about this particular silk at all. It's absolutely an extraordinary piece. And I want to show you one more thing in the Bébé line. Collectors are always seeking costumes for their dolls. And this is an outstanding costume designed for a size 11 Bébé Jumeau, the Spanish dress. Look at all the wonderful details on it. This is a separate little bolero, the black is. And then we turn it around. It's a two-piece, skirt and top and bolero, so three-piece. It has the lacing at the front. It has the little tambourine hanging down. Look at the hat that comes with it. It is unbelievable. The original hat. And even the shoes, one of which retains the bottom of its original, with the original label for Bébé Jumeau 11. Unfortunately, both soles aren't there, but one is. And this is the totally original. What an extraordinary costume. If you have a size 11 Jumeau and you want to turn it into $1 million doll, you just acquire this costume and put it on it, and it will be so special. Of special interest to Sammy Oden were the little dolls, known as mignonettes, as Lilliputians, or as just simply as all bisque dolls. While his museum mostly focused on the French mignonettes, the little ones, he also has some extraordinary example of the German all bisques that were being made at the same time. There's a lot of overlapping between the countries during this time period. Many of the dolls that we call French mignonettes at this time were likely also made in Germany, or were made in Germany, but made, as I like to describe it in the catalog, for the French market, commissioned from German makers such as Simon and Halbig or Kling, and then brought to Paris, where they were costumed in wonderful little French costumes or made in little arrangements and sold as a French doll for the French market. They're all from the same time period, and in point of fact, really little matters what their country of origin was, because they are so precious and so wonderful. Sammy accumulated some different ones, and while you may think that little dolls, you know, in this little 4 to 6 inch size are all going to look alike, I have here an arrangement of 8 of them, and I will tell you that every single face is different. Every face is different. How do collectors choose them? They choose them for rarity features. For example, we have a little doll right here that has a smiling expression on her face, which is, it's piquant, it's so precious. and that would draw a collector to choose that. We have others that have bare feet, and that's really a rare feature to have in a doll like this. So we have several with the rare feet. And the feet are all modeled differently, and then you take the rare feet and then you go back and look at the face and say, well, which face do I really like? And then, of course, that gets you looking at the costume, and you decide what costume you like. Other rarity factors are a little girl like this one and this one have jointed elbows. Little ball joints in their elbows, allowing the elbows to be articulated, and any form of articulation that a doll could have would have made it more pleasurable to a child playing with it, as well as today, consequently, more value because it was a more cherished item. And of course, the costumes. It's always the costume, it's always the clothes. And Sammy managed to find dolls with absolutely wonderful costumes and clothes in his mignonettes. I do love this little doll with her exposition, 1889 exposition costume, celebrating, of course, the Eiffel Tower. And that's such a wonderful part of French history, and to have this little girl wearing this dress that is celebrating that is just grand. He also has several dolls in their original trunks with trousseaux. This is super little girl. Look at how precious she is. And look at the costume she's wearing, so wonderful. And she has an entire trunk with jackets and matching hats, and there's an entire knit ensemble. And here's another black velvet thing. We have straw hats. We have little white dresses, and it goes on and on, all of the wonderful possessions that she has in her original box. And then another one, which is precious in so many ways, because not only is the doll herself beautiful, but she has an entire trousseau of handmade clothes based upon La Poupée model patterns that were made in the magazine and also showed in the stores. And I'm going to show you, this is part of it, these are just, they're unfindable. Here is a cutout, a muslin thing designed to be cut out from La Poupée model in Paris, labeled on the bottom, and it's showing you the little babolet, it's showing you the little chemise, and all of these would be cut out and would be, there's the instructions for the embroidery, and they could be embroidered. And to find one that has not been cut out is so rare. And that is included in this trousseau of this little girl with all of these wonderful, wonderful handmade clothes. In his book, Sammy Oden writes about the discovery of many of these items, many of them brought into his museum by people from whom he was able to acquire them from original owners. And that having something from an original owner carries with it a story, as well as having the wonderful sense of freshness to it from that original family. Now, on this other side, I talked about the Germans also making these wonderful dolls. Here we have the little, very classic dolls that were made by the German makers, in particular Kessner. And we have several very rare examples right here. And just to kind of show you the difference from the French mignonettes, I'm going to put one over in front of it so you can see the scale of these dolls. These all bisque dolls are so, this girl, she is so chubby, and she's just so right in every way. She's an absolutely fabulous doll with her original costume. And now I'm going to move her back. You go back there with your French friends and look at this girl. I'm going to turn her around so you can see this costume all the way around. There is no one who loves dolls who would not want to have that in their collection every single day. She's absolutely extraordinary. Not only the doll, but the costume, the whole presentation. This little girl is so beautifully sweet, so different. The other one is kind of a sassy girl. This is a very sweet, shy little girl. Look at the difference in the boots. Our little girl over here has bare feet and little tiny leather boots. She has painted high-laced boots, wearing, again, a beautiful costume, and you're seeing it from the back now. Sorry, the stand is in the way. And then, look at this. There's nothing new under the sun. We think children have walkers today. No, they had walkers then, and they were made in replica size. I've seen wooden ones, and here's a very rare brass walking for a child learning how to walk, actually revolving and designed, if you are able to see the baby's feet while we're going along, it's designed by little wires that make the baby's feet actually move back and forth. This is a very, very precious object. And then another of the large all bisque, this by Kestner with the square cut teeth. It's known as, and look at her boots, the painted yellow boots. Very, very fancy and beautiful, and with a wonderful original costume. And then we have the beautiful and always desirable little kneeling girl, obviously designed as a praying child because her hands come together in the front and are clasped as though she's praying, and then she's in a kneeling pose. And she can also be in a seated pose, although I think you should dress her if you do. And these are just samples of, there are dozens more of wonderful all bisque dolls in the Sammy Oden collection, the Musée de la Poupée of Paris, auction entitled, and the book entitled Fascination, and you really need to come and see all of these wonderful dolls at this exhibition.